Keller-Williams. And today I wanted to invite Ryan Hatch, who's with the County Assessor's Office, to explain a little bit about the property tax notices that you guys have received and what questions we get asked most commonly in our profession. So Ryan, tell me a little bit about what the county assessor does.
Okay, county assessors in Utah are charged with really two different duties. First being to identify and value all new properties in the county. And second is to do a detailed review of the county every 5 years. So we split the county into, roughly 20% of the properties each year and do an annual analysis and review of those properties.
So we're talking specifically about Washington County today, just so you know. Other counties have different processes, but they go by the same laws. So as an assessor, are you a licensed appraiser?
We are in Class 1 and 2 counties in Utah. The only Class 1 county would be Salt Lake. All of the other 4 or 5 smaller, lesser counties are Class 2 counties. You actually have to be a licensed appraiser to run for assessor. Below that, 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe you have to become licensed within the first 3 years of your term.
Okay. So while you have been elected, you also have to be a licensed appraiser?
Correct.
Okay, fantastic. So how do you guys calculate taxes?
Well, I'll clarify this. This is a misnomer that we get asked a lot. The assessor's office does not calculate taxes. We value all property in the county, all real property, business, personal property as well. We submit all of that information to the county clerk's office, who works with each entity that's listed on your tax valuation notice. They take their budget, divide it into our value that's within the boundaries of that entity, and come up with the tax rate.
Okay, so you guys aren't just picking and choosing a property tax amount. There's actually a process, and other people are involved through the system to make it work.
Correct, definitely.
Awesome. That's good to know, because a lot of people do have that misconception that you guys just pick a number, and boy, wouldn't that be fun to swallow and hard to sleep at night.
Yeah, very thorough process with the clerk.
So one of the questions I get asked a lot is, why might taxes be higher this year over last year or year over year? Okay.
There could be a lot of reasons. One that we get most commonly, and I think we're going to talk about it a little bit later, is the primary exemption. In Utah, you can have one primary exemption per household. So husband can't have one in Salt Lake and the wife have one in Washington County. It's one per household, but that law is based on use of the property. So you can actually have your household and then have an unlimited number of rental properties if they're long-term leases, and it's the client or your tenant's primary residence for their household. They can qualify that for you as well. So it's a use law, not an ownership law. One very common thing that happens in Washington County, I think about 27% of our properties are non-primary, so a huge chunk down here in Washington County. People lose that exemption for one reason or another, and we're very proactive in trying to make sure people that qualify for it receive it. But oftentimes if people call and say, my taxes doubled, if they've doubled, they've probably lost that 45% reduction. Other reasons, if you've improved your property, things like that obviously would add value to the property, and therefore tax increases. This year, if you're in the St. George City area, St. George is looking to increase their budget. In Utah, we have this property tax system called Truth in Taxation that says, in essence, as values go up, tax rates must offset. So in a perfect market, if values went up 10% in the countywide, exactly every property, that tax rate would have to offset, and you'd pay the same taxes as the prior year. Now, it's not always a perfect market, and there are neighborhoods and areas that appreciate faster or slower than others. Also, there are sometimes shifts from commercial property appreciates slower than residential property. That tax base must remain the same, so there can be some shift from commercial of that tax base from commercial to residential.
And if I'm correct, some of that can be on the price point too, because some price points have appreciated at a higher rate versus other price points that didn't appreciate as quickly, and so it all equals out.
Correct. The tax base, again, with that truth in taxation process, doesn't change. The entity can only collect what they collected last year. So if the affordable housing, that was whatever it might have been in Washington County, $200,000 to $300,000 properties do appreciate faster because they're in more demand. Maybe the higher end homes don't see that increase in value like some of the lower priced properties. So there can be some shifts as well. Lastly, what we're seeing this year is, again, St. George City is increasing their rate, so that their portion of that rate can offset. There's a state school fund, which is I think the second or third line on your notice, that has been frozen for 5 years. It was raised by the legislature and then frozen. So if you can picture that rate can no longer offset as values increase. So as values do increase, that's a tax increase, and those two are a big chunk of, if you live in St. George City, of why your taxes might be up this year.
And I just want to go back to something that you said, that if you make improvements to your property, so let's say that you have a home that when you purchased it, the basement was unfinished, and in that year, you had the basement finished. Now they're going to assess the whole finished property. So that's one of the reasons your taxes may go up. I get that question a lot when I have homeowners that have bought a basement and finished it themselves. They have appreciated their value in the property, and so therefore the property taxes value goes up.
That's correct, and the main way we discover that property change is via a building permit. We get copies of all building permits from any building departments within the county, the cities, and the county itself. So if there's a building permit pulled for something, we follow up on that and add value accordingly.
And also, just to note, it's a little side note, but always get a building permit. Even if you're doing the work yourself, you need a building permit to do the work and have the work done, because if it's not permitted properly and the powers that be do find out that you finished the basement without permitting it, they can actually have you undo all of the hard work. So you want to save yourself the trouble of doing it twice and the expense, and make sure you get a building permit. That's not what today's video is about, but I just wanted to throw that side note in there.
And we do get calls occasionally from agents and title companies that ask if we have a building permit on record, whether or not they can count an area as finished living area. Was it done by the homeowner without a permit, wasn't up to code, it can't be then for officially qualified as living area or whatever it is. So we do get those inquiries occasionally.
Yeah, so if you have done some work on your own and extended part of your home without a permit and it wasn't permitted, we can't count that as square footage in your home. So even though it is a bigger house that you've improved, because it wasn't permitted, we can't include it as actual living space. So sorry to get off track, but I wanted to make sure that you guys understood that part also. Will you show them an example of the tax notice that they received? Just
Maybe Rebecca can put one of these up on the side.
yes, I will zoom in and I'll show you what one of these looks like, but we should have started with that, and you never know what to start until you get in the middle of it. But we are talking about the tax notices that go out, and the bill is due November 30th, correct?
Correct, yes. So this is just a notice of value. This is telling you what our office has valued the property at. And if you follow down here, it lists all the entities that are going to get a piece of that property tax pie, what their 2021 taxes were, and then over here it'll show, and it's a little bit confusing. This is a statewide form, so it's hard to change it. But it'll say, for example, St. George Cities, if they adopt their increased budget, if they don't adopt it, and then what those changes might be. So just follow each line across. When we were talking about primary improved, this is my house, it says primary improved property. So it gives my 2021 market value, my 2021 assessed value, which is with that 45% discount, and then my 2022 market value and my 2022 taxable value or assessed value, which is 55% of the market.
Yeah, and I will put a slide up on one of these as an example. There will be some personal information deleted, just so that we're not highlighting anyone's home in particular, but you can at least get an example of what it looks like and what to look for. So what is fair market value?
Fair market value is basically defined as a willing buyer and a willing seller with no undue duress in the transaction. So, if there's some reason that they're having to sell, sometimes those properties are distressed and listed for a lesser price, but willing buyer, willing seller, open market.
Okay. And how close to market value are the assessor's values?
Here's another misconception. I've been here 21, 22 years, and we often are asked, people think we're 30, 40, 50% under market value, or that we're supposed to be. In Utah, Until just a few years ago, residential property had to be valued within 10% of market value. And then just a few years ago, they changed that residential has to be within 5%. That's as of January 1st, or what's called the lien date in Utah every year. So we gather and collect all the sales that we can throughout the year. We analyze those and make sure that they are fair market transactions. And then we adjust everything to January 1st of that year. So for this year, everything is as of January 1st, 2022.
Okay, so if I understood that correctly, the market value, the fair market value needs to be within 5% of the home's value.
Correct.
Okay.
And we have Utah State Tax Commission is our oversight agency, so we run all our analytics each year. Technically, we could be between 95 and 105. We don't want to be on that higher side. We'd like to be just at market value. But they make sure that through their own analytics that we're compliant in that rule.
Okay, so that brings me to being compliant in that rule. And you mentioned earlier that you guys you break the county into sections and do it every 5 years. So how often are the properties in the county assessed or valued?
So we do that detail review that we talked about. So we're looking at every property at least every 5 years. And that's in a mass scale. We're looking at aerial imagery, looking for possible changes to the properties, but really looking for accuracy within the neighborhoods, outliers, making sure that everything is as it should be. But we value every property every year. We look at all the sales in the county every year and make adjustments. In the market that we've experienced lately, it wouldn't be fair, I think, to have not valued certain properties this year when the market has appreciated the most and maybe catch them on the downturn. So this way it's very equitable. We're looking at every sale and the market year to year and changing all values accordingly.
So everything's getting assessed equally across the board every year. So it's not like they're skipping your house 1 year and then tripling it the next year. Every house is getting the same equal treatment and property value that all of the entities that we showed on the tax notice, they all have a part to play in that. So you are getting a fair assessment and every house is getting assessed, not just one section of the county every 5 years. But they focus on that as a way to track and rotate, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So what assessment information or resources are available to the public?
Our office is very open. We first say call us if you have questions, but on our website, we've been trying to get more and more information out there. So we encourage people to take a look at their website. At the website, you can look at your individual property. You can look at the sketch and the photo of your property. You can look at some of the characteristics, the basic characteristics of your property. And if something looks off, give us a call. Some other tools that are great that we've put in the last couple of years, there's a property tax estimator. It's on the left column of the assessor's page. You can go in there and plug in your property value, what taxing entity you live in, St. George City, Hurricane City, wherever it is, and it will produce a primary and a non-primary calculated tax estimate based on the value that you input.
So that's really important to know. If you have paid cash for your home and you're not getting each of your monthly payments put towards your property taxes, that's a good way to calculate it so that you know at the end of the year, November 30th, when your taxes are due, what to expect, so that you're not all of a sudden hit with oh my gosh, what's this bill about? So if you do check on that website, it's WashingtonCountyAssessors.gov.
It's washco.utah.gov/assessor.
We're gonna have to say that again since I screwed it up.
washco.utah.gov/assessor.
Okay.
Then there are several links in there for different things you can search out and find information on.
And I'll also include that link in the comments so that you guys can just have a direct access to it. And I'll include the phone number for the county assessor's office so you can call if you do have questions. So how do I read my valuation notice? I know we started going over that and
That's fine. The first thing we tell everybody to look at and make sure it's accurate is, like I said, mine that I just shows primary improved property. If your house happened to be, if you purchased it from someone else that it was their non-primary residence the prior year, you'll just follow that line across. People say this says non-primary and I know mine's primary and I filled out the application, was told I was approved. That may be for the prior year, so follow that line across. Make sure you're comparing apples to apples. And then again, follow that down to the taxes, what they were the prior year. You can follow the budgets. It does talk in there about, and if you look at St. George Cities in there, is holding a truth and taxation public hearing on August 18th to vote on their budget. That time and place is listed there along that line item. So if you want to attend that hearing and speak your concerns, support, or whatever for that initiative, you can. And then at the bottom of the tax notice, it'll give your, again, prior year value, prior year taxes, if budgets are approved or not. It does show a percentage increase, but that percentage is a little bit misrepresented because it's whether or not the budget's approved, not 2021 to 2022. That's something we'd love to change. Again, it's pretty tough statewide to change that one form. Lastly, the bottom of your notice talks about the County Board of Equalization. This is really important. It's going on right now, August 1st to September 15th of each year. The Board of Equalizations run throughout the state. If you feel that your value is incorrect, usually you think it's high, you can come in and appeal to the Board of Equalization. That's a function of the county clerk. You'd want to bring in some evidence. I think we're going to talk about this as well.
Yep.
But look at that information, follow those dates, don't miss the deadlines. It runs for 6 weeks straight. It's a very informal process. Come in and people can help you file those forms and tell you what kind of evidence is needed. And then you can have a very informal hearing with a local hearing officer and dispute that value. It's not to dispute taxes, it's to dispute value.
And one of the great things that I do want to mention is the Washington County Assessor's Office is very helpful. I know that people get their tax notice and they freak out and they don't want to appeal if they feel their value is too high. But they're really here to help you, and it helps them, it helps the whole county to make sure that they have accurately assessed the property values. So if you do have a question or a concern, contact the assessor's office, ask them what the appeal process is. You can even look at the link on the website. They do have, is it a video or just an application?
There's an application. You can download the application online. You can't submit it online yet. We're hoping to do that maybe next year. You can print out and fill out that form and send it in to us. You can email it to us, attach whatever pertinent information you have to support the discrepancy in value that you feel. And as Rebecca said, you know, our view of the Board of Equalization is an opportunity for the assessor's office. We make some very broad stroked adjustments to properties. We have about 75,000 residential properties in the county right now, just a few hundred, under 100,000 total properties. So we make some mistakes, you know. This is our opportunity to correct those mistakes if we can be made aware of them.
Yeah. So the best thing, just to continue on this topic for a few minutes, and one of the reasons that I am talking to Ryan today is to let you guys know that we work as a team and we work for you. So if you have concerns about your property value, you've called the assessor's office, they say, yeah, it might be worth appealing. You call our office, I'll have our information listed below. We'll help you with the evidence that you need to support your value that you think is where it should be. And if the evidence shows that your house is marketed at fair market value, then you might not want to go through the appeal process. But if the evidence proves that they have overvalued your property, they gladly want to take care of that and make sure that they put it within that 5% range, because they don't want you to be in the 105 or higher. They want you to be in the 95 or lower tax bracket, or within that 95% range. So we really do want to help you. We're here to help you, and part of this video is to educate you a little bit more on what that notice looks like, and if you feel it's incorrect, how to get it corrected. So contact our office if you feel like yours is too high, if you have trouble with the application process. The assessor's office is there. We can help you with the evidence. We just need to know, because you do, like he said, you have a 6-week window to appeal that. And I want to go back to what you said about the St. George City having
Public hearing.
a public hearing. You said August 18th?
August 18th, I think it's at 6 o'clock. It's listed on that notice.
Okay.
I can tell you right now.
Well,
6 o'clock, 6 p.m. in the city building.
6 o'clock at the city building, which is off of 200 North in St. George, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Let me-
just north of our office.
Let me just guess things and tell you guys all about it and post it worldwide, okay? So it's on 200 North, it's just right above the police department. So, but their address is also listed on the tax notice, so you can find it or you can call either of us. So let's see, we had talked about the appeal process and their evaluation, and you talked about how that worked a little bit. So Does an appraisal affect the home value for property tax purposes?
Yeah, an appraisal, if you've recently purchased a home and had an appraisal done, if you've refinanced and had a recent appraisal done, that's another type of evidence that we'd like to see. We do, in the market we've experienced in Washington County in the past year or 2 or 5 or 10, we do make adjustments. If you had an appraisal done in February of 2021, that market value might be different than it was, 10 months later, January 1st of 22. So we'll take some other comparable sales and determine a time adjustment, maybe adjust that appraisal forward to the lien date, but it's still great evidence. One point on that is the assessor's office is only allowed to use sales that occur prior to the lien date. So here we are 8 months later. Often we'll get people to come in and say, I bought my house last month for this amount, and if it happens to be lower than their market value, we'll still take a look at it. But if you're looking for evidence, for comparables through your realtor or whatever, we would request that you bring things in from, last quarter of 21, whatever you can find that is like properties that's truly comparable to your property, and we'll take a look at it.
So comparables for the last quarter of the previous year. So
Correct.
for the example of this video, we're in 2022, so we would be looking at the last quarter of 2021 for values that support your home, so to provide as evidence.
And that's ideal. If you don't have any sales, if you're in an area that didn't have a lot of market sales and you have to go back further, that's fine. We just want you to keep in mind that if you pull something from 6 or 8 or 10 months prior, we may have to make an adjustment. We're not just going to take that at face value. Well, we may have to make some adjustments to it to bring it up to what it would have sold for at the lien date.
Correct. So other than appealing the appeal process and having the primary tax as an exemption, excuse my language, are there any other ways to lower my tax value?
There are, and these are done through the clerk's office. The county clerk offers some abatements. These are some statewide abatements that have been approved for tax relief. Again, we don't deal with them a whole lot, but in a nutshell, if you're any percentage blind, if you've had an injury due to military service and have a percent disability, you can file for that. If you've been deployed, I believe it's for 200 consecutive days, even over 2 calendar years, but it has to be consecutive. You can receive some tax relief for your military service. There's also, I think, a couple of different abatements based on age and income. So if you're over a certain age and under a certain income, you can come in and apply for those abatements with the county clerk's office and receive some tax relief if those are approved. Those have to be on primary residences, and they have to be applied for each year because some of those circumstances change year to year.
So the best way to find out if you qualify for any of those abatements is to go to the assessor's website to look at what abatements they have that you might qualify or fit into before you go through all the work to apply for it.
Yeah, and the clerk's office will have those definitions on their site, and their website is the same as ours except /clerk.
So now we've provided you with a lot of information. There should be a lot of questions. So please reach out to Ryan or I. We just want to make sure that you are getting your your taxes evaluated properly. We want to make sure that you know that we are here for you. We're here for where you're growing next with the Sycamore Lane Realty team. As you know, our slogan. Would that be slogo? Oh, I said it again. Logo and slogan. So it's now called Slogo. So if any of you follow my other videos and I say Slogo, it's logo and slogan. So we really are here for where you're growing next. We want to be there to help you. So contact either of us for support. And I'd love to see anybody that's a St. George City resident at that August 18th meeting at 6 p.m. so that you can really hear what's going on, what they have proposed. And if you agree or disagree, this is your opportunity to speak your truth. Use your voice and stand up for what you believe is right. They'll propose the bill. They'll give plenty of time for people to ask questions to clarify. And then you can, if you agree, you say aye. If you don't, then you have the opportunity to say that's not for me. I don't believe that will work for us as a community, because we are doing this as a community benefit. So it is run by St. George City, governed by the state of Utah, and please be there at that meeting because it's important to have your voice heard, especially if you have concerns or frustrations about your taxes. This is a perfect time for you to be able to understand what's going on and what the proposals are and how to stop them if you don't agree with it, or see why they're increasing so that you know and can understand why they're being increased.
Yeah, I'll just say, we just met with some of the St. George City folks a week ago, related to this budget proposal that they're looking at, and whether you like their proposed increase or not, they're being very transparent. I think they have a website out there and a lot of information. Like I said, it's good to be educated on it, see where they're coming from prior to that meeting, and then go in and make your voice heard, like I said. It isn't a vote of the people. People could go in there with pitchforks and torches and everybody say they're against, and the city council can still vote to move forward with it. But they may not get reelected, so we'll see what happens at that meeting. But that is a public process that the state requires if they want to raise their budget. So check out their website, look at the details of it, and then like Rebecca said, attend that meeting and speak your mind.
And at least that way you know you've been heard and you're informed about what's going on.
And those are required anytime any entity. So if your tax notice year to year, you see that notice out on the far right, that one of those entities is proposing a budget increase, they will list a time and place for that public hearing.
Fantastic. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for meeting with me today and helping explain the process of how our properties are assessed for taxes, how we can fix them if we feel like they're incorrect, and to really show that you guys are here to help us.
You're very welcome.
I appreciate your time, and we're going to say bye for now. So comment or call us if you have any questions. We'll have some information for you, like the assessor's office link and phone number, as well as our contact information in case you don't have it. And so just reach out and know that we're here for where you're growing next. Hi, welcome back to the YouTube channel for Sycamore Lane Realty at Keller Williams. I'm Rebecca Bundy, and I just wanted to say, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell button below if you haven't done so yet, and we'd love to hear from you. So whether you like what we're saying or whether you disagree with what we're saying, please let us know. And if there's anything that comes up that you are not getting answers to, that you would like to know about, please make a comment below or request a video, and we can put that together for you. And we're happy to help you because we are here for where you're growing next.